Hi everyone,
Hello, hello.
I'm Leah,
I'm Steve.
and I'm also Frugal Vagabond,
And I'm Third Rock Vagabond.
and we're going to make sure, yes indeed, our microphones are on. So today we're doing an Ask Us Anything, and we started about a minute early, so I'm going to give people a chance to
Join.
join, because I actually advertised this one. We try to do that every time, but because I never know what our schedule's going to be from day to day, because I just don't. We're very flexible. What's the word I'm looking for? We're spontaneous. We're very spontaneous people.
We're like Gumby.
Gumby?
Gumby. That's the Marine thing. His motto is Semper Gumby, Semper Flexible.
Okay.
Always.
Always flexible?
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, so the subject of the live stream today is Ask Us Anything about how to prep for a 9-month world cruise.
Yep.
But we also have some set things that we wanted to talk about and things that people ask us pretty regularly. So mostly about, like, what do you do with your house? Now, a bunch of people that we were on the cruise with sold everything.
There's a bunch of them that did, yeah.
So what did we do to get the house ready?
Well, we straightened it up. First of all, we packed. Got all that stuff out of the way. Then, of course, being able to ship that the luggage early was good.
That's true. So, do you want to explain a little bit about that? What Royal Caribbean did? No, you go ahead. I don't want to talk through. I don't want to be the only one talking.
Well, you won't be.
Okay. All right. So, Royal Caribbean partnered with Luggage Forward. So, for a fee, we could ship bags ahead. We were told, I think we had theoretically, a limit of like 6 bags per person.
Per stateroom.
Per state. Oh, I thought it was per person per stateroom. Anyway, whatever the limit was, if there was one, I think most people went over that, but nobody said anything. It was fine. What you paid, you got what you paid for, right? If you paid for shipping 4, 7, 8 bags, then that's what they delivered to your room.
Anyway, because then we get the luggage out of the house.
Yep.
And then, of course, just doing standard stuff to prep for it, make sure, I kind of like to keep things cleaned up a little bit before you go, as much as possible, because it's still going to be crazy before you leave.
Yeah.
But,
and in our case, I had actually packed it. We were thinking about selling the place, but we didn't. So I had packed all my stuff in trunks. So, and they still are in trunks.
yeah. The other things, one, of course, checking your water connections. You usually got to make sure that everything's going to make it, hopefully survive the next trip. If it's not, you might want to do some, so a little bit of maintenance, replace a faucet or whatever it might take to make sure it's not going to rupture over the, if you have a bad winter or just it rots.
That's a good point. Like anything, any kind of maintenance that you were thinking, oh, I might need to do this in the next couple of months. Do it before you go.
But I also had a friend who was going to be working in the area while we were gone, and so it's coordinated with him. He just needed to be in it on the weekends, so he'd usually come down. It was Thursday, maybe Friday, maybe Thursday. Then he'd head back to his place, usually like Monday morning.
So if at all possible, have somebody stay at your place.
Yeah,
and
someone you trust.
Someone you trust, obviously.
And also that brings in the vehicle too. It was just going to be sitting there, so I gave him the keys, got them all set up, and let him drive it while I was gone, or we were gone. And,
right, because 9 months is too long to let a car sit. The battery's going to be dead when you get back, or tire issues or whatever. So. Another thing that you absolutely need to do is set up auto pay on all your bills. So I understand, or at least in the group that I hang out with, most people are on auto pay, or at least online payments.
Yeah.
So there were a couple things that weren't set up that way for us, I think, and we took care of that before we left.
Yeah.
So auto pay or online pay, absolutely necessary.
Yeah.
By the way, I keep looking down because I actually have a list to make sure I don't forget to talk about anything. Ring camera. So, what does the Ring camera cost?
I think the cheapest ones right now are about $100 maybe. I'm not sure. It's been a while since I've purchased any, But it's nice to have some kind of security system that you can, scroll onto on or attach to on the app.
Do we pay a monthly fee for that?
There is. It expired the other day.
Okay, but
So
it was
so
in
mine
place
hasn't-
while we were gone.
Yeah,
So what did we
Yeah.
pay a month for that? Do you
I
remember?
can't remember. It's one of those things that's on auto pay, and I can't remember exactly what it's set up as.
5,
I want to
20?
think it's like $100 a year
Oh, okay. So
if you
maybe
buy
a
it. If you
yearly.
buy it for a year,
Okay.
something like it's somewhere in there. But there's a lot of different brands that you can use. Of course, on the rings you also have the lights and all that good stuff. So it's also nice to have that.
Mm-hmm.
Lights come on in the evening. Have at least 2 is probably the best setup, and have them in like different rooms or
And we've
something.
had that for a while.
Yeah.
Even when we do short trips,
Yeah.
we set that up.
Yeah.
Hi, JM.
Howdy.
Thanks for watching. We're doing a Ask Us Anything about how to prep for a 9-month world cruise. So if anybody has any questions, I see there's a couple people on. So if anybody has any questions about that, let us know. We'll
Yep.
answer them. But we do have a list of stuff we're talking about. I was going to say,
Hello.
I really
They're
hope
saying
that's-
hello since we got back home.
I hope that's not audible.
They missed us.
People are so obnoxious. Anyway, that's a car revving its engine on the main strip here. Or disconnect the battery, right? So if you,
Disconnect the battery.
for your car.
I thought we were talking about security systems.
You mentioned car, so
Yeah.
if somebody's driving your car, great. But if not, disconnect the battery.
Or if you got a place to secure it, put on the trickle charger.
There you
Those
go.
usually work real good.
Also an option. Medication. Now this was a bigger deal for you than it was for me.
Yeah.
So if you're on any regular medication,
Mm-hmm.
then
You need to get with your doctor and tell them what you're getting ready to do, and then tell the pharmacy, the insurance company, your contacts, that you're going out and you're going to need a vacation override, and it'll allow you to get several prescriptions at the same time, so you're covered. Whether you need 1 month, 2 month, 3 month, whatever it might take. Ours was generally the 3 month. They'd give us 90 days, but we had to ask for extra ones to get the full 9 months covered.
and even then we still miscalculated
Yeah.
on one. Now
Yeah.
Royal Caribbean also for this particular voyage asked for a list of our medications, and they made some available to us.
Yeah.
So the ones that we miscalculated, we were able to purchase those from the ship, which was really handy.
It was very handy.
And they couldn't get everything. There were like
No.
were like 2 things that I take that they were like, yeah, we can't get that. Okay,
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah.
So I brought enough for the whole trip. Let's see. Oh, vaccines.
Yep.
Make sure
Gotta
your
get your shots.
vaccines are up to date.
Your distemper, your kennel cough, all that good stuff.
And distemper and kennel cough. Okay, sorry. Anyway, and specifically to check at what vaccines are recommended for the areas that you're visiting. So there
Yeah.
were a couple that weren't normal, like the yellow fever vaccine we got because it's common in several of the areas that we go to, but not something you would get for staying in the United States. Let's see. Oh, and then if your doctor's uncomfortable with giving you 9 months worth of prescription for something, if they have telehealth visits, if you can set that up so that you can actually make arrangements to actually see your doctor, that's also another good way to address that.
Yeah.
We did, another thing, because we started in Miami, and the last place we were in the United States was Hawaii. So even if you couldn't have gotten your full 9 months, if you got some of it, you could have gotten, we didn't do this because we were able to get the full 9 months, but if you couldn't have, you could also have your prescriptions transferred to a pharmacy in Los Angeles or Hawaii.
Yeah.
And again, this is all for U.S. people, right? Let's see.
I got one thing to add back on your home. Getting someone, one to watch out for it. If you got someone staying there, also let your neighbors know.
Oh, yes.
So that way, just in case they see someone strange coming in and out of your house, driving your car, they don't think your wife's ditched you somewhere.
We actually got to introduce him to our neighbors, didn't we?
A couple of people I
Yeah.
did, not many. But that, and but just tell your neighbors. What's happening. Your close neighbors. Don't tell people you don't really know, because then you don't know who they're going to tell. Hey, yeah, these people are gone for 4, 5, 6 months, whatever they might be.
And make sure you're up to date with your doctors and dentist visits. So we got a bunch of stuff done. Like we got our teeth cleaned right before we left. Haircuts, that kind of stuff too, because getting your haircut on the ship is really expensive. But
I take my barber with me.
Yes, you do. We both had our teeth cleaned. We both, there were a couple of different things that we were supposed to have done. I don't even remember what they were right now, but we had a bunch of doctor's visits before we left, just to make sure we were, I guess for you, the cardiologist.
Yeah.
So a lot of things to make sure that we were going to be safe and healthy while we were out.
And also make sure you see them with enough time to contact the pharmacy and your insurance provider about the vacation overrides that you want to get. So you got to have plenty of time to get those taken care of, because there's going to be a mess up.
Yeah, that's true. We spent a lot of time on the phone with the pharmacy getting everything sorted out. That was kind of nerve-wracking.
Yeah.
And again, we had plenty of time, but it was still taking it down to the wire in terms of time. That was really frustrating.
Yeah.
What else do we have here? I'm getting tired of looking down, so I'm picking up my notebook. There was something else. Over-the-counter medicines. Now, we, I don't get sick in general. Like, I get a cold maybe once every 2 years. You don't get sick very often either. That will be different on a cruise ship, I guarantee you. I must have gotten a really bad cold 2 or 3 times, and I did go to the medical and get checked. Did you let your credit card company know that you were traveling? Yes, we did. That is a really good point. We did check with them.
Yep.
What was I saying about so we didn't bring over-the-counter cold medicine, and I went to the medical. They did a test. It wasn't COVID. So, but we also, the medicine down in the ship store was very limited. And so I ended up paying for it from the medical facility, and it was really expensive.
Yeah, the medical stuff on the ship, it's going to be expensive.
That being said, so the doctor's visit was really expensive, relatively speaking, which I still need to submit to the insurance company for that. But I lost 2 fillings while we were on the ship, and the dental care was relatively inexpensive. I mean, considering I was paying out of pocket, it was around $350 for each of the fillings that I had done. And I can't even imagine what that would have cost here if I had to pay out of pocket.
Yeah, that's true.
Let's see. Oh, and I was going to say that a lot of people, so I was talking about over-the-counter medications. So even if you don't get sick, bring it. You're going to be eating food theoretically way different than what you eat at home. So bring stuff for, antacids or stuff that helps you through tummy issues, because that'll be really expensive if you're buying it from the ship as well. Which kind of brings me to the personal toiletries. So do you know how many razors you go through in 6 months?
Roughly.
Right.
Of course, I use an electric shaver for my face. For my head, I have both. I have an electric razor, but also a blade. And those, I generally go through, I pretty much get one for every 2 to 3 months on just shaving the head.
Right. So we used to travel for work a lot. So we would pack up a lot of, not that you couldn't buy it where we were going, but in some places you could, and some places you couldn't, and some places didn't have the stuff we like. So
and some places didn't have mail service.
Right. So I have a really good idea of how much of those things that I go through every 6 months or so.
The burn rate.
The burn rate. That's a good way of putting it. So if you don't think of that stuff for work or for any other reason, really, really put some time into thinking about it, because almost everyone on the ship brought way too much stuff.
Yeah.
And I think the only thing I underestimated was deodorant. My deodorant didn't last as long as I thought it was going to, but I was right on with the toothpaste, with the mouthwash, we brought tons of extra toothbrushes,
Yeah.
which we didn't need, but it was all right. But really think about how fast you're going through certain types of things and try not to overpack. So another thing, like, because we had gone to Costco to get a bunch of this stuff.
Yeah.
And we bought a large package of Q-tips, and I think that we ended up bringing a 675.
There was two of them.
There was.
That's what we got in here right now. The second one.
No, but we left the extra ones here. Anyway, what came in the package with Costco was too much, so we brought one or two. I don't remember.
And we ended up kind of running short.
We did run short, but that's why I think we only brought one, not two.
We brought one, yeah.
Yeah, we brought one.
We didn't bring the second one. The second one's here.
The second one's here, but hey. Where did we get new stuff?
New stuff.
Well, we
had to get that small travel in the last few days.
That's true. So
picked up in New York.
That's right. In New York, we got the travel size ones because by then the trip was almost over.
Mm-hmm.
No reason to buy another big one. So when you're packing clothes, what's your guidance on how you picked what you were bringing?
What I was going to wear.
So I was thinking something like packing for a 2-week vacation. So think about how often you want to do laundry. That's how many pairs of socks and underwear you want to bring. But other than that, I would. And I didn't do this myself. I said I was going to do this, and I didn't. I ended up packing way too many clothes. Way too many. But pack as if you're going on a 2-week vacation, and then bring a few extra items that for hot weather or for cold weather or for the theme nights that you're expecting. And leave it at that, seriously. Because everybody I know brought way too many clothes.
Yep.
And keep in mind that in most places you're going to be able to buy clothes where you go. I mean, even if you can't find the OTC medicine that you're used to using and that you like, you're at least going to be able to buy clothes.
Yep.
And generally speaking, the clothes that will be for sale in that place will be appropriate to the weather. You can pretty much guarantee that. Let's see. 1 or 2 fancy outfits. So this is another lesson learned from my perspective. I brought probably 8 different fancy outfits because I somehow thought that I was going to become a person that I am not. And I ended up only wearing like 2 or 3 of them. And the rest of them stayed in the bag the entire time. So it was a waste of time packing them. And also because they were big poofy dresses. Anything you can't live without for 9 months. So think about that. I brought 2 books, and then for everything else, I had a tablet that I had audiobooks and Kindle books, right? What was some stuff you couldn't live without?
I don't know. I could probably live without a lot of things.
You had about 8 pairs of reader glasses.
Well, yeah, because they're cheap and they tend to get in the way. They get in the way, and next thing you know, it's all been out of shape and you can't use them anymore. So, or the lenses are all scratched up.
Jewelry. So more of a big deal for the ladies than it is for the men. But
leave your tiaras and crowns at home.
Right. So I bought a couple of really nice pieces of costume jewelry to go with the fancy outfits. I ended up wearing them a couple of times, so was money well spent, I guess. I did bring some expensive pieces with us too, but I did not, we brought extra secure storage with us as opposed to putting it in the hotel safe. It may or may not have been completely fine in the hotel safe, but I wasn't comfortable with it, so we brought an extra storage lockbox.
Yeah. Yep.
We talked about vaccines. Visas.
Fun.
So a lot of people ask about this. Now, Royal Caribbean, specifically on the 9-month World Cruise, helped out tremendously on this. So there are a lot of countries that have visa on arrival, and for if you hold a U.S. passport. So
that's very nice.
right,
Very easy.
so they took care of making the arrangements with the customs people for all of those countries. There were some of the countries, because we had the itinerary change, there were several places in Africa that had a more particular immigration process. They ended up handling that for us. Same with China. Because at the time, when we were getting ready to go, the word was that we had to, somebody in person had to go to the U.S. Embassy in Washington, D.C. or New York, depending on where you lived. So we weren't going to fly to New York or Washington, D.C. for that visa. So we had kind of held back. Now, several of the people we cruised with were able, because they had 2 years to plan, they did in fact go through the more complicated process, and they got a 10-year multiple entry visa, which I guess cost them a couple $100, which is fine if you plan on going to China more than once. Now, by the time we actually left, or maybe even shortly after we were on the ship, they did a landing visa for us. So, do you want to explain that?
The landing visa is one that's particularly for cruise ships and other similar, I don't know if aircraft would qualify, I'm not sure.
Tour groups, I guess.
Yeah, it's a large tour group. And it allowed us to get off the ship and go with the tour group going to the Great Wall. The stipulation is you cannot leave that group and travel on your own. So you have to stay with the group from ship exit to ship entrance, getting back on board.
You're not going by yourself to have lunch or doing anything. Now, the people who got their own visa, they could if they wanted to.
Yeah, but with just the landing visa that the ship provided.
Right.
And for me, that was perfect because I didn't, other than seeing the wall, and we got to see some other little metropolis areas, and drove through Beijing. But I'm just hesitant to go back. That's I doubt we'll get the 10-year.
Brendan says make sure you drink lots of tequila.
Tequila? No tequila. Me and tequila haven't talked in years.
Steve doesn't like tequila.
It was a bad night. We had an argument.
So overall, I think there were 10, maybe around 10 visas that we had to do on our own. So some of those we applied for and got ourselves, paid for them online, and got them online. I don't remember having to bring any pieces of paper with us, did we? Right. So whatever the visa was came,
Just identification, passport.
Right.
Normal stuff when you go off in a foreign country.
And I want to say there were a couple, in general, what we ended up paying a piece for those was maybe between $50 to $100 for each of the visas that we had to get on our own.
Yeah.
So that was an extra expense. But again, most of the ones, the visa on arrival ones, we didn't have to. We could have paid somebody else to do those for us before we left. We did not.
Save money.
To save money. We also did not, So
well, some of them are also, it's you got, when you sign up for it, you got 60 days to enter the country, or 30 days. Some say 90.
So we had to do some on the ship.
Yeah, had to do some on the ship when you met that criteria. Between this is the first day you can get it, and this is the last day. So
overall, we probably spent maybe $500 on the visas.
Something like that.
Something like that.
Sounds about right.
And
overall,
New Zealand and Australia, their process, you can't pay somebody to do it for you.
Nope.
You have to do it yourself.
But it's straightforward. The apps they have on both of them are pretty easy.
So let's talk about storage.
Storage, where here or there?
So a cruise ship is really small. Your room is, I don't care where you live, your cabin is probably going to be way smaller than you're used to.
Unless you're up in the big suites.
Yes. That's true, I guess.
It's probably smaller than theirs.
So we spent a lot of time watching other people on YouTube talk about what to do to get ready for a short-term cruise.
Yeah.
A lot of them talk about having magnetic things. So we did get the magnetic hooks.
Yep.
We got a bunch of those, and those were fabulous.
Yes, they are. Because not only will they stick to the wall, but they'll stick to the ceiling.
Yes. But one of the things that we weren't aware of, I'm pretty sure I didn't see this in anybody else's video, but you can actually buy, they're like office supplies, or little black mesh containers with magnets on the backside, flat backs.
Little storage bins.
Yeah. that you would, like in an office setting, you'd put your pencils or, I don't know, art supplies or something like that in those. Anyway, they sell those with magnets on the back. And I got this tip from Renee Shull, who has an organizing channel. Anyway, so we did not bring those with us, but when we went through, she came in and did a video of helping me organize the cabin, which was really nice of her. That's her thing. But she also recommended, before we did that, she recommended some specific products that I buy. And one of our friends was going home and then coming back to the ship, and he agreed to let us ship it to his house, and he collected it all and brought it back. So we had those all over our walls after that.
Yeah, we had way too many on our walls. Some of them were empty the whole time.
Well, I did order too many.
And plus, we moved into the bigger room.
Yeah, that's true.
So, more places to put stuff.
All right. So, other than the letting the credit card company know that you were traveling, which really important. Oh, and check to make, before you go, check to make sure that your credit card company does not charge foreign transaction fees. Because we've traveled for work before, I already knew that I had 2 cards that didn't, so those were the ones, and then, well, actually, we got the Royal Caribbean card, too. We got a new Visa card right before we left. And those were the 2 that we used pretty much exclusively.
I used mine.
Did you?
Well, yeah, buying lunch or stuff like that.
But you knew that it didn't charge foreign transaction fees.
Yeah.
So we checked.
Already been through that. Yeah, that's
okay.
too easy.
I think that's all I got. Do you have anything else you may have thought of?
No.
Mail forwarding. This will be our last tip.
Mail forwarding.
So
mail forwarding. I used to work for the Postal Service.
I think we have kind of different opinions on this. So why don't you go first?
Yeah. But yeah, like I said, we've worked overseas. I used to work in the post office in between overseas stints, and it's not that difficult to do a mail forwarding. They've changed it. You used to be able to do it for a solid year and not worry about it. Now you can only do it for a temporary change. You can only do for 6 months, and then you got to renew it. So I've never had an issue before, and working overseas all the time, it never was a problem. Came up to renew, I went online to renew it, renewed it just fine, except for this last time. We hit the 6-month mark in June.
Somewhere around there, yeah.
And
late May, June.
My mom mentioned that she wasn't getting any of my mail. She was still getting Leo's, but not of mine. Mm-hmm. And so I went on, it's probably stopped. I need to go back and double check it. And so I went in, and sure enough, it had stopped. However, when I went to renew, to extend it, they said, oh, you must come into a U.S. Postal Service office to have your identity verified so we can continue the forward.
We were in Europe at that point, so that was not happening.
Yeah, I was able to call our home post office and talk to one of the supervisors there, and they had, of course, there's no way that they could help me over the phone. I said, well, we're in the Mediterranean on a cruise ship. I said, there's no way.
The important point in the story is that it never got resolved until we got home.
No. And
his mail was screwed up for 4 months.
Yeah, there's several things that I was kind of looking for that just never showed up. No one knows where they are.
So when we did the initial forward, I got the same error message that you have to come in person. But it was before we had left Miami. So one of the last day we were in Miami, we spent the day basically finding a post office, getting a taxi, going there, proving who I was, and my forward was fine again for the first 6 months.
Yeah.
And I did put in, I think, my forward at the 6-month mark also went fine, but with my important banking stuff, I just changed my address with them. It was easy enough to change it when I got back. So I kind of skipped over that problem there. Again, it depends on who's collecting your mail for you, how much you trust them, and whether or not the post office is going to give you a hard time. But they forward all of the first class stuff. They don't do the third class anyway, so.
Nope, no junk mail gets gets forwarded.
So you lose junk mail for 9 months, which is kind of handy.
Yeah. Anyway.
Any
That
last
was
thoughts?
it. No, I'm done. All good.
All right, so if you weren't able to catch the entire live, this will be reposted on YouTube at Frugal Vagabond and on TikTok at Frugal Vagabond. So go there and check those out on whichever platform you're most comfortable using. Bye.
Adios, amigos.